famous wine cameos in movies. Famous wine cameos in movies. I want you to start with your number one. I am pumped. Feed me, Mama Bird.
Okay, so thank you. I feel like we almost should have done this like as number one of part one, because here's a wine cameo that not only was a part of a movie, but it ended up like launching this winery into like super cult stardom. And so you can kind of see through this one like why I think when we get to my last one, we'll have a different discussion. But this one is Disclosure, Michael Douglas, Demi Moore, and of course the wine is Paul Meyer Chardonnay.
Isn't it true, Ms. Johnson, that you told Mrs. Ross 3 weeks ago that you wanted a bottle of the 91 Paul Meyer for your meeting with Mr. Sanders?
Right? And you remember this one, of course, right? Like this is the great turnaround power play where she's in control and harasses him. And is it Oliver Platt that's like his like friend and lawyer that like he's just fabulous in this movie.
Mr. Sanders, you say the bottle of wine was Miss Johnson's idea?
Yes.
Why don't you really quick just give the plot? Give the plot of Disclosure for me. First of all, I just love this time period. I call this, in quotes, Michael Douglas is a dirty slut phase of his career, where he is like making these movies where he is just like does despicably horrible things. And not to get off topic, but then all of a sudden he's the American president in The American President afterwards. And somehow audiences are like, yep, that's fine. Like, this guy's just terrible. All right, what's the plot of Disclosure?
Let's use plot loosely, right? Like, so Demi Moore, I think it's set in Seattle or it's set in Portland or something like that. And it's like kind of like it's like a company that's like a little bit kind of for the time, like where not everybody's in a cubicle, you know, and it's like a different business culture. And they bring in a new like senior vice president, and it's Demi Moore, right? And she is going to be the boss. And Michael Douglas is married, but he's kind of attracted to her. They end up having a raucous time together, which she kind of pressures him into, right? So this is sexual harassment going female, like Demi Moore on Michael Douglas. And only because two things happen that then it goes to trial, and it's his word.
Really clever.
It's very clever. I mean, you could see the writers just really thought this one through. Like, you know, we have the big twist. And it's in like, there's a part in the trial where like, you know, she sues him claiming it's he did it to her, etc. And there's a point when his lawyer the lawyer's got Demi Moore on the stand, and she says, so it was an impromptu thing to invite him to your house for dinner. And Demi Moore says, yes, it was a last minute thing. And she says, well, didn't you ask him what kind of wine he liked? And she said, yes, Napa Valley Chardonnay. And she said, and what wine did you serve? And she said, Paul Meyer Chardonnay. And the lawyer said, did you just run down to the local liquor store to get this Paul Meyer Chardonnay? And she said, oh, yes, I think my assistant picked it up.
I sent my assistant, Mrs. Ross, out to buy a bottle.
And then the hammer drops, and the lawyer says, would it surprise you to know that Paul Meyer Chardonnay is not available anywhere, and that you must be on the mailing list, and that it's the most highly sought after wine, and that you had to have gotten it 6 months ago and planned this out? And it all falls apart.